Dozy is an anti-fan. The phenomenon of the so-called anti-fan can be explained thus. There is a type of fan who likes to attack their idol brutally, as if they were an enemy. Black powder fans are trolls who love to insult and find fault. This is how they express their love. Dozy chose to be a black powder fan for 3 reasons. The first reason is that he likes to find flaws, insult the author, and fight the other fans. But this is simply another way to get publicity for their idol. Instead of letting the author bask in the loving feedback from readers, the black powder fan will drag them down and smear them with dirt so as to attract the attention and sympathy of others. Once their mission is accomplished, they retire. The second reason is that Dozy loves to write scathing reviews and then sit back and watch as the other fans jump out and condemn his review. Seeing the other fans counter his review and defend the author, Dozy feels extremely satisfied. Dozy, very good, that is what I wanted to say. Brothers, try harder to praise the author. The final reason is that Dozy has a playful nature. Of course, fans love and respect their idol, but his approach is different. Afraid of being ignored, he likes to take the initiative, to make a big commotion to capture the attention of his idol. He can be compared to a shy but black-hearted girl who is waiting for a boy to lift the red veil, saying, "Come seduce me, I won't be any trouble." At first, Dozy had tried heaping praises on his idol. He wanted to take out all of the love he had in his heart and pile it up in front of the author. But this did not work out. His comments just drowned in the crowd of enthusiastic fan feedback. His idol doesn't use Weibo or QQ. He only comments on the webnovel's homepage. Fans keep posting there and Dozy's own efforts were always ignored. Dozy then had a moment of epiphany when he recalled the saying, "Nice guys finish last." Realizing that the good fans never get the attention of the author, Dozy decided to become an anti-fan. The world lost a sincere, nice fan, but Dozy gained success as an anti-fan. Now let's talk about the unlucky man who Dozy had his eye on. Yeezy. As a resident of the internet, Dozy found his true love there, the YY novel author, Yeezy. It is said that his surname is Kia and his pen name means "through every page of my writing, I seek to understand myself, haha." Those were the author's exact words. Supposedly, behind each haha was a group of cheering fans. Speaking of Yeezy was writing, "If there was no harem stallion, golden finger, domination of the earth, or ruling the universe, then call Marty Sue in." Therefore one may imagine how Yeezy writes, and what kind of person Yeezy was. Haha. As a matter of fact, Yeezy's novels do have a lot of golden fingers, but his stories were not senseless. They all have a logical plot, foreshadowing, and originality. The cleverest thing he does is to pick up the mishmash of stuff that can already be found in other online novels, change it up a bit, then put his own spin on these tired ideas, making it refreshing to read. Dozy had been reading novels for years when he found Yeezy's infinite flow work and immediately became awed. Since then the world has one less passerby, you understand? Yeezy, although he is not super popular, he does have 1,000 plus followers, so he is not unknown either. He also has at least 100 readers, who comment and cry piteously for new chapters and updates every day. His posting schedule is very regular. Yeezy also has the very bad habit of replying only to the comments on the first page a short time after he posts a new chapter. As for the comments that get pushed to the bottom pages, what is that? Can it be Eden? 3. The author doesn't know that there was a fan who got tired of his comments always being ignored and quietly turned into an anti-fan. It was hard for Dozy to understand his own actions. In fact, he was deeply in love with every page of Yeezy's work. Every sentence poked his main point and every story was able to scratch his itch, making him want to stop trolling, but he couldn't control himself. As a black powder fan, Dozy has strict standards. For every chapter, he rates it 1 star and leaves a scathing review. whenever he abuses the author's work. It causes Duzi a lot of mental anguish and the silly. Duzi then silently castigates himself before spending the next day changing his username and commenting on the novel's page again. So when Yi Zikia announced his newest novel, Duzi was extremely excited. Yi Zikia has written a total of 5 novels. Duzi became a fan when the author was in the middle of his 5th book. In other words, this would be the first time that Duzi would be able to follow one of his idol's stories from start to finish. It's like watching a son being born and growing up. Nothing could possibly stop him from loving this novel. In the beginning, the god of creation told the 8 races, "As long as you pay a price and give me something of yourself, you can trade a gift for it." The angels gave away their humility, received healing. The demons gave away their mercy, received destruction. The elves gave away their passion, received archery. The gnomes gave away their tranquility, received forging. The dragons gave away their self-control, received durability. The undead gave away their kindness, received deathlessness. The beast king gave away their reason, received battle fury. The humans gave away their tolerance, received learning. When a boy who has all of the 8 races, blood running through his veins appears, a legend will begin. Witness how the young boy will awaken his lineage, experience happiness and hatred, and finally set foot on the road to becoming a god. Professionally written, character quality assured. And this book will definitely not be abandoned. 7. Please bookmark and add to your collection. Do Z read and Ray read the announcement. The new novel is titled Mixed Blood. Looking at the title and summary, the reader can know the outline of the story. It's mainly about a mixed blood protagonist with the power of all 8 races, who must awaken his blood to gain more power, before finally become the supreme god. It was the standard YY novel plot. It's really too cute. Come on. Duzi was already giddy with excitement because this kind of setting poked his point. Duzi has always insisted that the looks of the protagonist should be outstanding. He likes the protagonist to be as kinky and experienced as possible. The more seductive, the better, even if it makes the protagonist a bit too perfect and fake. Watching the main character abusing people is particularly cool. Younger brothers and cute sisters will be plentiful. Playing the pig then eating the tiger, how delightful. A world unified under the protagonist's domination. This really is a big possibility. Thus, Duzi was already in a worshipful state of mind when he opened Mixed Blood after reading the update. Looking at the authors, I have something to say. Duzi coughed up blood. It's not enough. Not nearly enough. This fan has deliberately kept himself from reading for several days before starting on the novel. Author? Where is the author? Duzi mentally let out a string of expletives. Duzi focused once more on Mixed Blood and, as he started reading from the beginning, the wolf blood within him seethed with excitement. It seems like the plot of the story is heading somewhere good as a group of future little brothers and harem members are participating in a magic school trial and thus need to go to an abandoned tower to retrieve a codex. Due to the protagonist's halo, even the supposedly safe trial location can become dangerous. Therefore, the group triggered an inactive spell array. Everyone was trapped, and the invincible hero saved the beauty's little brother. Finally, the protagonist's group left after capturing the hearts of a bunch of boys and a beautiful girl, plus a piece of metal. Duzi, knowing how YY novels work, immediately guessed that the bit of metal is an important magical artifact that's absolutely essential to the story. Character satisfaction rating, 4 stars. Golden finger satisfaction rating, 5 hearts. Adventure satisfaction rating, 4.5 stars. Hero's domination satisfaction level, 5 stars. To stand high above everyone and to dominate the world, it's so great. Duzi was buzzing with excitement and accidentally glimpsed the last paragraph. I have to help to boys look for partners. Next week I will post more. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha. 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 The words "FK your mom" roared through Duzi's mind. He sat in front of his computer staring blankly for a while. The white light of the screen was reflected in his glasses. He's a pleb, but if one only looks at Doozy's face, a person might be deceived by his superficial resemblance to the social elite. Doozy narrowed his eyes. The expression on his face was a little tense. Since the author is not online during the weekend then, haha. In the Magic Tower test of Mixed Blood, the trapped characters are not just the protagonist's group but also another group that they are at odds with. However, the protagonist treated everyone the same and saved them all. Based on other YY novels, the saved people will either become good friends whose friendship won't waver even in 100 years, or they will think of the rescue as a shameful matter and from then on antagonize the protagonist repeatedly for months until the author makes them into cannon fodder. Doozy's glasses reflected the light. With his 4 years of harem novel experience, this is definitely the first case. That's because the group the protagonist is in conflict with is headed by a very beautiful sister. She's not an ordinary sister, but a princess who was rescued by the handsome protagonist. Since then her heart will soften towards the hero and love will blossom. That's how it is in harem novels. Doozy silently put down the hand that was covering his nose and turned all of the words in his head into antonyms. Clicking on the mouse to start a review, he started to gush. Username: Doozy8. Comment: Mixed Blood score: 1. The review section: 17. Rubbish story, cute style. Author stupid and great writer. The protagonist is too much of a selfless holy saint. The protagonist is all kinds of cute and adorable. In this case, he saved the cheap tramp. Good save. The protagonist's brain is filled with she. Is he thinking with his lower body, not with his brain? Hurry up and capture the princess. This reader is looking forward to him being abused by the cheap tramp. Please, more romance. He clicked OK and watched the small chrysanthemum icon slowly turn. Doozy minimized the window and played a bit of Dungeon Fighter Online. Shoo! Why save them? Amid the ruins, Rose pouted angrily and looked at his right hand. It was pale because of blood loss. Her eyes were teary. They obviously do not care for you, but you still used so much of your own blood to disarm the trap. It's not worth it. Rose's voice is not too loud or too soft, but not too far away. The princess group heard it. Princess Kelly bit her lips. The look in her eyes was extremely complex. The blood flow soon stopped due to the effect of Daniel's healing spell. Hearing Rose's angry words, Shu looked up and replied, "Compared to a person's life, this bit of blood is nothing." Eddie patted him on the shoulder and silently expressed his admiration for Shu. "Why are you so good to everyone?" asked Dorothy, sobbing. "I just did what I had to do." His smile was like the sun that threw everything else into shadow. A soft, bright light. Nearby, Princess Kelly made a soft sound. Her face had an arrogant and disdainful expression, but her flushed cheeks betrayed her little girl's mind. Excerpt from Mixed Blood. Once Doozy finished his daily Dungeon Fighter Online task, he opened the web page again. As for the author, he wasn't available and, no matter how much Doozy wanted to, he could not reach through his computer screen to give him a whipping, even though his resentment was about to reach the sky. Since the author was not online, Doozy could only read Mixed Blood again to comfort his empty and lonely mind. However, when he saw the Mixed Blood homepage, he found that his previous comment had attracted attention. Username: Doozy. Comment: Mixed Blood score: 1. The review section: 17. Rubbish story. Author stupid cient. The protagonist is too much of a selfless holy saint. In this case, he saved the cheap tramp. The protagonist's brain is filled with she. Is he thinking with his lower body, not with his brain? This reader is looking forward to him being abused by the cheap tramp. The author replied, "Understood." User Kinkinson1. The first poster is a stupid cient. User Quizmalife. These people are right, ignore the troll. User Weaponoff Mistestian. You don't like being prodded, so masochistic to read the troll posts. I sincerely suggest the original poster should take medicine. Doozy stared at the lines of words on the page, and he suddenly felt like bursting into tears. The play is wrong, director? The author's feelings were hurt and he stopped writing. What's the matter? No. Ah! It felt as though a herd of geese was flying over his head. First in the shape of an S then B, he began to vote using the paid voting ticket system to try to save this precarious situation. As Doozy stared at the top comments, Doozy felt as though his HP was decreasing with a constant poke, poking his soul to death as his blood sprayed 3 feet up. Sadly, Doozy refreshed the page all day and night, but Kia never appeared. His mother eventually forced him to go to bed. After tossing and turning for hours but still unable to sleep, Doozy secretly used his turtle speed mobile phone to access the internet. Perhaps the heavens were not cruel enough to ignore the unlucky reader and the equally unlucky author who might just perish together. This time when Doozy opened the Mixed Blood homepage, he saw that there was an update. I have returned. On Monday I will update. P. The author is super cute. The poor, tired-out reader was instantly saved from his depression. Doozy fell asleep still wearing his headphones and glasses, with his cell phone in his hand. He didn't know that this would be the beginning of a tragedy. On Monday, Yi Kia updated and Doozy ran after him like a true fan. Doozy was very honest this time, using his votes and comments to encourage the author. The story of Mixed Blood continued to progress. The protagonist and the groups from the collapse of the tower returned to the Magic Academy. The academy sent a beautiful teacher who investigated the situation and praised the behavior of the protagonist. She even allowed him to enter the inter-school competition. During the competition, the protagonist awed the onlookers with a single brilliant feat. The human protagonist's gift is learning, and he has great talent. For him, skipping a level is normal. Learning the magic martial arts is normal. Mastery of the 4 elemental magics of fire, water, wind, and earth is normal. The protagonist is very op. The brothers and sisters were defeated. There are lots of future harem members and little brothers, as well as cannon fodders and a boss that are all destined to be destroyed later on. In spring, the protagonist attended the Magic Academy competition, and in autumn he will harvest a crop of younger sisters and little brothers. Doozy feels exceptionally refreshed by the story, happily thinking that the protagonist's luck is about to break the sky. Push down that sister, take that little brother, rob younger sister and brother, kill. This caused a tragedy. Doozy's mother didn't want to see her son staying home and playing on the computer all day long, so she packed him off to his grandparent's house seeking to reform his behavior. By the time Doozy returned to his kennel, the plot of Mixed Blood had progressed by quite a lot. The first thing he did was run to his computer like a starving man and open the home page for Mixed Blood, eager for more. After the competition, the beautiful teacher also returned. Her news shocked the whole mainland. Beneath the tower is the laboratory of the notorious Lich Lewis tenant. The Lich Lewis had disappeared hundreds of years ago, but everyone was still afraid of him. Even after hundreds of years, people are still terrified of him, because he launched a scourge that wiped out 1/3 of all the countries and towns. The author wrote about the Lich in detail. Doozy's heart sank. Obviously, this brilliant ancestor and the protagonist will have an important story arc. Perhaps the lead's undead blood will be awakened by him. Yi Kia focused on the world's great terror and loathing of Lewis and the undead. Doozy understood that many novels are like this. The evil Lich must be defeated. This is the plot's G-spot. Doozy doesn't know why he is uneasy, but he feels an inexplicable sense of upcoming crisis. Next, because of the involvement of the Lich Lewis, the Temple of Light sent someone very important, Saint Vivian. The author spent half a paragraph to describe her beauty. Her meeting with the protagonist was quite romantic. The saint had lost an item and was looking for it at a lake. The protagonist, attracted by the pure light energy, saw Vivian in the water, and for a moment thought that a fairy had come down to earth. He helped her find her lost item and, for a variety of reasons, they did not exchange names but hastily separated. Although they do not know each other's identity, they had left a good impression on each other. Doozy covered his nose with his hands. The protagonist of Mixed Blood is so impossibly cute. Doozy had not had time to absorb the scene of the protagonists and female lead budding love story when the story suddenly made a U-turn. The temple's staff explored the Lich's tower but failed to return. They found someone who was knowledgeable about the magical array. One of the temple's knights said, "There is a restriction for that spell. Only the Lich's blood or the blood of one of his descendants can unseal the laboratory. Only an evil person can trigger the evil spell." Doozy suddenly felt bad. He scrolled down with his mouse and then became petrified. It must be remembered that the protagonist had saved everyone by using his blood. In other words, the person who was related to Lewis could only be the protagonist. After hearing the words of the knight, the protagonist's companions were silent. Princess Kelly, whom Doozy had identified as the second female lead, did not hesitate to expose the protagonist. The male lead argued that he had nothing to do with Lewis, but no one spoke for him. They all just stared at him without speaking, as he was taken away by the light. Temple's knights. Just like that, the infinitely beautiful future genius became a prisoner. Doozy almost puked out blood. What is this? But it's not over yet. The bigger stimulus is yet to come. The imprisoned hero was unwilling to accept this state of affairs and repeatedly insisted that he was innocent, but no one listened to him. The jailers only asked him one thing: "What is your relationship with Lewis?" The protagonist is punished when he denies it. Then the question is coldly asked again: "What is your relationship with Lewis?" This part of the story was disturbing and agonizing to do. He didn't want to know about all those torture methods. Author, you didn't have to write so many specifics about the abuse. Even though a story will naturally have highs and lows, this time the author has been too quick to plumb the depths of hell. There seemed to be no way to make the stubborn prisoner confess, so the Temple of Light decided to use an extreme method. They put a special nail in the protagonist's body. What followed was a very bloody scene. The nail held a spell that made the flesh and blood gradually evaporate. The piercing screams finally came to an end. Due to the smoke, they couldn't see how much of his flesh and blood had melted. Ulrika cast a spell. A gust of wind blew away the smoke. What appeared before their eyes was a lich. It was a white skeleton. The soul light in the eye sockets flickered. He raised an arm and stared at the bones. The skull could not have had any expression, but everyone there could feel his surprise and disbelief. The skull looked up at the people around him. When it opened its mouth, the breath of death leaked out. Daniel automatically raised his staff to cast attack magic. Eddie reflexively stood in front of Rose, coldly staring at the skeleton. Rose's eyes widened. She could not believe what she saw and her eyes were full of fear. Ulrika would not look at what was once her favorite student. Kelly screamed and hid behind the light. Temple's knight, as far back as possible. "Stop gawking at it. Kill it quickly." Doozy felt the blood rising in his throat. In the next chapter, the Temple of Light's people want to kill the protagonist, but they have no experience with fighting the undead. They cut off the protagonist's head, hacked his body apart, then threw the remains into the burial mound. However, for the undead, the dead state is normal. In a sense, they are immortal. Thus, for the protagonist, the things that would kill a mortal are ineffective. That night, when the protagonist regained his skeletal form, he looked at his bony body and felt very confused. Rose went to the burial mound to mourn her first love and was scared silly when she saw him resurrected. After the protagonist confessed to her Rose promised to help him return to the school to clear things up. Doozy swallowed down the blood that was about to gush out from his mouth. Even the author that wants to write an original story still has a limit. This story development is probably going to be like this. After the hero and the cute girl run away together, they look for a place to quietly become strong. Then they return to wreak their vengeance on the Temple of Light. Why did he not realize that a girl next door, type like Rose, is also a good harem candidate? Then Zekia immediately dealt a blow to Doozy's hopes. The protagonist waited for Rose, but he was betrayed. The people who appeared were from the Temple of Light, and this time they were prepared. The priests who were sent were all sworn to purify the undead. However, the cemetery was an advantageous spot for the undead protagonist. Although he had not yet mastered his necromancy skills, his instincts were good. Seeing a horde of zombies rise up, All of the people present were increasingly sure that the protagonist is surely evil. Despite everything that happened, the protagonist still cannot bear to kill them and simply escaped. But now the whole continent is hunting him down. In the constant pursuit and escape, the protagonist encountered danger after danger. The soul of the protagonist was stricken with deep pain. He was betrayed again and again, even if he had just rescued a woman from a gang of thugs and escorted her home. When she saw the skull under the hero's hood, she did not hesitate to sell him out to mercenaries. If not for the undead's immortality skill, the protagonist would have died thousands and thousands of times over. When he was at his lowest point, Daniel, one of his earlier allies, rescued him. After all the betrayals he had experienced, the protagonist had become paranoid, but Daniel seemed not to mind his indifference and suspicion. Many times Daniel helped the protagonist escape from mercenaries. Good brother, Doozy is ready to bow down to worship Daniel. Luckily there is a good little brother, otherwise the author might make the protagonist's situation even worse. But Yezekiah immediately dealt a fatal blow to Doozy. Just when the protagonist had finally let go of his suspicion and thanked Daniel, he found that his hiding place was surrounded by the people from the Temple of Light. Daniel, revealing a simple and honest smile, said, "Shoo, sorry, the best thing you can do now is to die." Doozy's blood finally spurted from his mouth. Author, you win. With a magician's staff in hand, Shu went back in high spirits. When he was in school, he knew that Daniel's family was very poor, and that he has not been able to afford a better staff. Shu's hand on the staff tightened. Under his hood the skull was expressionless, but he wanted to smile. Would Daniel be happy when he received this item? How long has it been since he wanted to smile? He thought that he had been abandoned by everyone, but someone told him he wasn't alone. In that instant, there was salvation. Back at the hut, Daniel looked very flustered and worried but relaxed when he saw Shu and said, voice loud, "You came back." Shu didn't want Daniel to worry about him. His identity hasn't been discovered. However, Daniel did not talk to him. Instead, one after another, the Temple of Light's knights and priests came out of the shadows to surround them. Their robes and armor had the number 12 on them. Both the humans and their equipment were clearly higher level and more dangerous than the previous enemies Shu had fought. It was rumored that the Temple of Night had 12 elite knights, the strongest of all their forces. Even the weakest of them was strong enough to kill Shu. The last person to come out of the shadows was a familiar stranger. Saint Vivian looked at the figure whose whole body was hidden inside a black robe. This is the first time she has seen a lich. The books described it accurately. The whole body gave off a strong, dark aura of death. Although it was not as disgusting as the histories had said, Vivian was still repulsed. Vivian's thin lips parted and she spoke to the lich. According to the bishop, the undead is called Evil Shu. This time you will not escape. Hearing the voice of Vivian, Shu turned around and glanced at the opposite side of the girl, where a team of knights was protecting Daniel. Daniel was aware that he was spotted, facing Shu and smiling the same simple and honest smile he wore when the original human Shu would help him bully his seniors. He spoke. "Shu, sorry. The best thing you can do now is to die." It's strange to know that he was betrayed again, but he wasn't hurt or sad. Even his anger cooled. There was no pain in his heart either. No. The skeleton opened its mouth and began to laugh. His heart had been melted away, hadn't it? The blue soul fire leaped in the black holes of his eye sockets, cold and without a single trace of heat. Excerpt from Mixed Blood.